Another fact that I want to share with you is they don't care about what you write. It is a holy grail tip, and it is the answer to score higher than what it is that you're scoring right now or what you will be able to score in the future. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. It's another week. It's another week of tips and tricks, and today, as I've discussed in my previous video, we are going to tackle how I scored an 8.5, and again, to give you a good summary of the four categories that you would experience when you take an IELTS test. I will provide you with some of the tips and tricks of the trade that I have personally used to score that average or that band average. I know that a lot of us have been struggling, especially for writing, to score a band score of 7. And that's very understandable because before I knew the things that I'm gonna share to you right now, I've also struggled with scoring a 7.5, and it just blows my mind how some small tips could actually help you a lot in scoring a higher number. First things first is the speaking. The speaking exam is basically assessing your vocabulary, your easement in terms of communication or communicating with another person. The questions in the speaking exam are fairly basic things that would be asked to you from a day-to-day basis. It's very well structured, so your thought process would not be that shattered, and they would give you a pen and paper, just like what I do when I prepare for my YouTube videos, so that you could write down the outline of how you would want to elaborate or expound on whatever questions there may be in the speaking test. The most important suggestion that I would be able to give you is make your answers concise and precise. It's like business writing. You just have to make it concise and definitely precise. My name's Olivia. I came from the beautiful city of Manila, Philippines. And what I love about the city is its vibrant culture and the hospitable people. That's it. I mean, unless they asked you or tasked you to expound on different things, I assure you, and I highly assure you, that keeping it short, sweet, simple is the best way to go. However, the speaking test also examines your vocabulary, your range of vocabulary. So just get your friendly thesaurus and see what are some substitutes to your common day-to-day language. Like, let's say food. What could be something to substitute food? Cuisine. My favorite cuisine would be blank. So there are things that you could interchange and make it seem that you're a little bit more eloquent than you are. What else? Let's say spoon and fork, or spoon and fork. What cutlery, right? Or utensils. Something to just add some juice and some spice to your day-to-day usual conversational words would be suggested recommendation from me. Second thing would be, again, their questions, especially during the latter part of that speaking exam, would be somewhat of a what, how, when, where, why questions. And just answer it in a way that would be cohesive enough for you to understand and for the receiver to understand as well. In terms of permanent residency, speaking has the least amount of weight. Your score in speaking from 7.5 to 9 doesn't matter at all. It's in one range, but when it goes down from 7.5, that's when it comes problematic. These people don't care about your accent. They care about your grammar. They care about your range in vocabulary. They care about your use of sentences, your vocalization of all these words are important, but the accent, it doesn't matter. Like, even whatever accent it is, English speakers, native English speakers from different parts of the world have different accents, and it's the last thing that they could care about, to be honest with you. I would like to move on to the next test category, which is listening. So listening is an integral part of a conversation. We know this, right? Because that is something that a lot of our partners complain to us about or complain to them about. This is where my testing centers, or my preference for testing centers, come to play. My focus is all over the place, especially when it's like a very quiet environment. IDP education provides me with my own set of headphones, right? To listen to the narration that is imperative to this whole test. The types of questions, again, are different in different parts. Again, there's multiple choice questions, there's an identification ones, etc., etc. And it gets harder as you go into the test. And my only tip for you here, write an answer, even if you think that it's not the right one. So IELTS doesn't deduct points for wrong answers, right? They just don't add to your points. But what if it's right? Like, for example, I was listening to the whole narration, but then again, it slipped my mind because I was out of focus for like a split second there. But then I got the main idea from the whole narration. So even if I did not specifically hear that answer, I totally got that point from what the idea is. I highly suggest that you don't spend so much money for reviewers and test examples, because there are a lot of free data and there are a lot of information readily available for you from the internet. Also, another thing for listening is that they do give you time to review the questions before they play the narration, and you would have a good idea of what words to expect and to write on the questionnaire sheet. All right, the third level in terms of weight in permanent residency, as well as the difficulty, reading is on the third of my list. So reading, I do have a lot of tips for, just because this category of the whole exam tests your comprehension. It has a lot of weight just because it's testing your comprehension. There are different types or different question types that you would be able to see in this category. So I would give you the 5 most common types of questions that I have seen in both academic and general testing examinations or training examinations, just so that you could prepare for it. So the first one would be the matching headings questions. So I'm reading my notes now just so that you also know that I base this from previous experience and from what was sent to me by my immigration consultant. So matching heading questions would be, you have to choose a heading from the list which matches a section of the paragraph in the passage. I highly suggest that you read the headings first before you read the passage, just so that you have a good inclination of what the headings are, and then you would automatically match it with whatever it is in the passage. It's easier that way. And the most important tip that I could give you is that answers do not come in order.
Again, they do not come in order.
It's not in chronological order. So please spend some time analyzing the headings and matching it with the passages. Second one, true, false, not given. So for true, false, not given, this is just to identify the specific information in the passage. Again, there are long passages and then there are questions afterwards. So you have to scan and understand the information given, analyze it, and then give your answer. All right? So here's the $1 million tip. Yes means the same information is found in the passage. Again, it's the same. Yes is yes. It's very straightforward. There are no subtweets there. There is no T behind it. It's just a direct yes. All right? And no means it's the opposite of the passage. The given is opposite to the passage or the information found in the passage. So yes means it's straight, direct, straightforward, nothing hidden there. No is the opposite. It's totally the opposite of what was found in the passage. All right? And lastly, not given. Not given is the information is absolutely not in the passage. It is outie. It is not there. It does not exist. It is not given. Let's not find some things that are not there. Let's not complicate the problem and just follow the yes, no, not given meaning. All right? So number 3 to this is matching paragraph information questions. So matching the information given in the question with information found in one of the paragraphs in the passage. Again, this could be tricky because the information provided has a lot of meaning and could be similar to what is the right answer. So the tips I could give you is firstly to paraphrase the information in the question. Just try to mix it in your head and you would be able to see that that information directly matches what is in the passage, especially when you paraphrase it. Or you could directly find that information in the passage, so you won't be able to have a hard time paraphrasing it in your head. Another tip for these types of questions: the answers do not come in order. And sometimes not all paragraphs may be used. So put that in mind as well. Number 4, summary completion question. So this is completing a summary by filling in the gaps using words from the passage or words given in a box. This is actually fairly easy. Firstly, you have to make sure that the statement makes sense, right? And this also applies to the listening exam, by the way. Just make sure that the statement makes sense, because when you fill out the gap, it should make an idea that actually comes from the passage. You could also locate the information in the passage in order to choose the right word, but that takes time. For summary completion questions, this usually comes in order just because I don't know, for some reason it comes in order. You could expect that the answers usually come in a chronological manner. So just make sure to skim through the passage so that you could easily remove, the words that should not be there anyways. And again, it should be grammatically correct. If you feel like it's not grammatically correct, then that's not the answer. It died again. Sorry. Sentence completion question. It's basically the same as the summary completion question, or types of questions. The idea is the same. You have to complete the sentences by filling in the gap with words from the passage. So I'm not going to repeat my tips for the 4th type of question because it's basically the same with the 5th one. All right. And then the hardest of the bunch. This is a pain in the... Yeah, kids are watching. But we have writing. And writing for me is the most excruciating part of this. That's why I highly, again, suggest, if you hear me say highly suggest, it's because I really do, that you take your tests in the computer-based form. If you write or if you take the writing test in written form or paper-based form, oh my gosh, you might have written the most beautiful paragraph narrative in your whole life, and yet you have penmanship that looks like a chicken wrote it, then I'm sorry, that's another from IELTS. So I highly really recommend you taking it on your computer-based exam. There are 2 tasks to this 1-hour test. The first one would be task 1, which is for academic. It would be explaining an illustration or a graph, and then the other one for general training is to write a letter, an email, and whatnot. So the most recent one that I've done is for the general training, and my task 1 was to write an instructions letter to my visitor, which is coming from a different part of the city. So it is a very good test or task to gauge your writing abilities, but just to be clear, writing task 1 and task 2 has different weights as well. It is very much recommended by IELTS practitioners that you spend more time in task 2 versus on task 1. So what they give is spend 40 minutes in task 2 and then spend at the very least 20 minutes on task 1, because again, task 2 receives more weight in terms of scoring. For task 1, when you're writing an email, make your instructions cohesive and as well as grammatically correct. For task 2, a few tips and tricks from IELTS themselves is when you are being given a question like mine, which is to side with one specific answer, show the other side's perspective, but in the end, stick to your answer. I definitely would want you to avoid dogmatic statements or opinionated statements, just because it really does reduce your answers or your scores in writing. Again, it really depends on the question, but for most topics on the writing test, avoid opinionated statements. Please don't use the first person narrative. Please don't use the first person narrative. Please use the third person narrative so that it sounds like it's objective. Okay? Secondly, when you're doing task 2, of course, we know the structure, but just to remind you, it would be good to have your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. Again, your body, it can be 2 or 3 paragraphs, but you just need to limit it to 2, especially when you're citing to one argument. And then make sure that whatever statement it is that has been given to you, or whatever topic has been given to you, make sure that in your introductory statement, you write the main topic and also express which side you're on, right? Just so that it provides the premise for the whole paragraph or for the whole narrative that you're writing. Okay, so aside from writing in a third person narrative, IELTS would see your vocabulary range here. They test your grammar, of course, they test your vocabulary in general, but also the use of sentences in your paragraphs. So they want to see simple sentences, they want to see complex sentences, they would want to see compound sentences. You could add questions to it, you could add a mix of everything, and that is what elevates your score. Because again, you could write absolutely stunning sentences and paragraphs and a very good answer, but if you don't showcase your ability to write in complex and compound sentences, then it would definitely hurt your score in the vocabulary range. I will try to show you where they base their score in terms of writing and all the other categories, because it will really help you to understand how they think as they score your paper. That is one of the most important topics. It is a holy grail tip, and it is the answer to score higher than what it is that you're scoring right now, or what you will be able to score in the future. Even native English writers are having a hard time getting a high score for IELTS just because of the way they score these things. And once you understand their logic behind it, it would be easier for you to write something aligned with what they're expecting. Another fact that I want to share with you is they don't care about what you write. May it be a fallacy, as long as you write it in a way that supports your idea. So for example, you side with children learns more in school versus learning from their family, right? And then you would want to support that by giving out, again, not opinions, but giving out solid statements that should be a fact. Based from a study from, say, Harvard University or University of Toronto, children learn more from the school environment because they are taught in a manner that is well structured. They don't know if it's a fact or not, but you based it on a study. And they would definitely add some points to that. The most important thing is to choose your topic, choose your argument, support your argument, and make sure that you don't give out opinions or sound dogmatic in your writing, because that will hurt your points again. This specifically came from the IELTS key that was provided for me, so that really helped me in terms of thinking of what to write and maximizing my time that has been given to me. Tips to save you time, because again, if you want to sound intelligent and knowledgeable, but you really don't have the ability to think during that time, or you absolutely don't know what it is that they're talking about, or you don't have an opinion on it or just an answer for it, just build a very strong, solid support statement that is based from a good, reputable institution, and you will be okay. They don't fact check things, and this would help you really save your time for task 1. Okay. One last thing, in terms of writing your paragraphs, we usually write our sentences with, say, firstly, secondly, thirdly, and lastly to conclude everything. I suggest that you write something more complex than that. The examples that they've given me, which I've used and helped me bump my score up, is instead of saying firstly, say primarily. Instead of saying secondly, say in addition to that. Instead of saying thirdly, you could say to support my first given statement, blah, 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 blah. Instead of saying lastly, it would help a lot if you say to summarize everything, or to summarize it all. This is my conclusion to whatever it is that I'm supporting from the introduction statement, or to the introduction paragraph, to my body 1 and my body 2. Practice is key to writing, to be honest with you. So practice with a time limit. Practice even if it's just like an hour a day before your exam, because it would help you manage your time, number 1, and number 2, make you more comfortable in that test structure, or writing that test given that specific structure. I think I'm losing focus. Okay, the next video would be about what my job is in Canada when I first got here and what my job is right now. My industry right now would really help a lot of immigrants in terms of what I share in my channel, and I am just very excited for everyone to get here and to get wherever it is that they want to go and to learn new experiences along the way. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I don't know how to say this, but it will help me if you subscribe to this channel, and as well as connect with me on LinkedIn. All right, so you do have a wonderful week and stay safe. Bye.